As you've probably heard by now, we've teamed up with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for our listeners each week. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code The Athletic, and you'll get a 1-year subscription to The Athletic, plus up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code The Athletic. Make your first deposit of at least $10. Place your first bet on any game and claim your voucher for a 1-year subscription to The Athletic. See BetMGM.com for terms. U.S. promotional offers not available in D.C., Mississippi, New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona. 1-800-327-5050 in Massachusetts. 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help in Michigan. 1-800-981-0023 in Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code The Athletic, and you'll get a 1-year subscription to The Athletic, plus up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager.
I was never really a runner. The way I see running is a gift, especially when you have stage 4 cancer. I'm Anne. I'm running the Boston Marathon, presented by Bank of America. I run for Dana-Farber Cancer Institute to give people like me a chance to thrive in life, even with cancer.
Join Bank of America in helping Anne's cause. Give if you can at BofA.com/supportAnne. What would you like the power to do? References to charitable organizations is not an endorsement by Bank of America Corporation. Copyright 2025.
It's time for basketball, and Uber Eats is dropping deals on game day favorites to keep you locked in on the action. Like when you're craving a buzzer beater, but also buffalo wings. Or when an upset makes you want to ugly cry into a pizza. And right now, Uber Eats has game day deals from Burger King, Buffalo Wild Wings, KFC, and hundreds more local favorites. So you can keep your eyes on the ball and your hands on a burger. Order now, only on Uber Eats. Product availability varies by region. See app for details.
The Athletic.
The reigning MotoGP World Champion and the reigning World Superbike Champion are both in the news this week. Jorge Martin is on the brink of returning to MotoGP for the Qatar Grand Prix, but will he actually race? And Toprak Razgatlioglu, yep, him again, is being linked with a MotoGP move. This time for 2027, which maybe we could have predicted with Pirelli, rule changes, etc. But the route he's being linked to is a little bit different. Simon, do you fancy explaining to the Race MotoGP podcast listeners what is going on with Toprak this time?
Why not? So this time around actually feels a little bit different. And I say that as like the biggest skeptic ever of Toprak moves to MotoGP, because it's been the boy who cries wolf for like 5 years.
Yeah.
Longer. Like since he won his Yamaha title in 21, it's been just this recurring theme of, oh, Toprak's going to Pramac, Toprak's going to Repsol, Toprak's going to Yamaha, Toprak's going to Pramac again. And the fact that he's managed by Kenan Sofuoglu just gives me no trust whatsoever in the process, because we know what Kenan's like. So this time is a little bit different because the D makes a bit more sense, and because Toprak is Kenan is pouring cold water on it, which he normally doesn't do. So that tends to make me think that maybe there is actually a little bit of truth to it. The rumor is that Honda want him on a 2-year deal that'll see him go at the end of his current BMW contract this year to their Superbike team, which, my God, does it ever need a boost, because they've pumped like millions into that team since coming back with a full factory setup in 2020. And they've achieved like 6 podiums in 180 races with a full factory team, which is just a disaster. So there's a really, there's a good argument for why they'd want him, especially seeing what he's done at BMW in the last, 18 months, where he's just absolutely turned around their World Superbike, program, finally give them the title that they've been trying to win since like 2013. And everything's rosy, even though it sounds like he's kind of fallen out with the team at the minute, and there's a bit of bad blood between them, in part because the former head of the program Mark Bongers was kind of unceremoniously dumped over winter and was one of Toprak's allies within the structure. And so there's all sorts of reasons why he's not very happy there. The rumor is that Honda will sign him in a 1-year deal that'll see him go to the Superbike team, go there, try and win a championship in a year, which is a big ask, but and then the year after he'll go to Honda MotoGP, where there'll be a brand new 850cc bike. There'll be brand new Pirelli tires that he spent his entire career riding on. And I think probably most interestingly or most importantly, if he joins in 27, but he's a contracted Honda rider in 26, he can do a hell of a lot of MotoGP testing.
Oh, yeah.
Because of their concession status and because he won't be an official race rider, he can do a lot of private testing. So he can come in. I mean, it's probably bad news if you're Taka Nakagami, but he can kind of join Aleix Espargaro in that test team and do a lot of riding. Superbikes only has 12 rounds. There's a lot of opportunity for him to be on a MotoGP bike and developing the brand new MotoGP bike to kind of suit his style. The new MotoGP bike could, in theory, be a bit more Honda-esque traditionally and a bit more Toprak style. Because if we're getting red height devices in aero, which, the new rules are cutting back, it means that the bike can be a bit more Honda front end feeling, heavy braking, suitable Marc Marquez-esque machine that they know how to build really well again. All the reasons why Marc left, and actually something that he talked about at the last Grand Prix in Texas about the difference between riding style in the two bikes. He kind of explained what made the Honda, and whenever you listen to him, you're like, oh, that's very Toprak-y. So it makes loads of sense. For the first time, it makes loads of sense. We also know that there's potentially another rumor floating around that Yamaha are once again interested in him because there's potentially space in Pramac, that they're keen to see if, he'd jump in there. He's always been opposed to going to World Superbikes and anything but a factory team. But you have to think that the full factory-backed reigning World Championship satellite team is pretty close to being a factory team. So that might be enough to persuade him to that option too. But I don't think the Yamaha GP bike really suits his style. I think that we already know he's had a go on it, didn't like it, was a bit burned by that experience. So the Honda thing all kind of lines up.
We had a really amusing experience the day this news started to break in our work chat, where, Simon, you had a couple of sources flag it to you in conversations you were having. Mm-hmm. And then initially, when you mentioned it to us, both me and Val were like, what? Like, it was a typical Toprak MotoGP rumour, but it just still seemed to be on even more drugs than the usual ones in terms of what it involved. And then Val wasn't working that day and sent a voice note as everything kind of crystallised in his head of how this could possibly work. And then, you spoke to other sources. Speed Week was chasing sources as well. And it kind of seems that maybe there is, something more to this.
I mean, it came from good sources in the paddock.
Yeah.
And then whenever I went and spoke to my friend Evo at Speedweek and our German publication friends who are like, Evo is Mr. Superbike News. And he was like, check the site later. There's a Toprak story coming up with a Keenan quote because he'd already asked him. And we kind of both agreed that the fact that Keenan was like, whoa, let's calm down on this. Given everything we know about the guy, was like, maybe there's something here.
Yeah, listeners, if you're new to MotoGP or not following Superbikes, Kenan Sofuoglu, who was a multiple World Supersport champion.
World Supersport champion.
Yeah, a very good rider.
And so significant within Turkey that he became a Turkish senator whenever he retired from motorbike racing.
Yeah. It's fair to say his management and communication style is bombastic, isn't it? So there's been times when he's spoken about Toprak's MotoGP possibilities and you've thought, well, no one's going to sign him now you've said that, are they? So
there's times whenever Keenan has told us, like he's told us like 3 times that Toprak has signed a MotoGP deal.
Yeah. Val, where have you landed on this now? Do you see this happening? Do you think it should happen?
Oh, do I see this happening is a tough one. That's a tough first question because you're putting me on the spot and I can't commit one way or the other. It feels difficult. Like this specific scenario still feels like really difficult to chew through, and to offer basically with the swears edited out to offer a version of the voice note that I sent. I was like, that only makes sense to me if Pedro Acosta's coming on board, which is not to say that this is how Honda would do it, but just this is how I would be amenable to taking on Toprak Razgatlioglu if the rider A was already sorted and rider A was at the level that my program needs. Ideally, if you're Honda, you do all that stuff with Toprak, with the testing. That's a very good idea. You sort of bank on his affinity for the Pirellis, even though obviously the MotoGP Pirellis will be different to World Superbike Pirellis, of course. But if you hope the same DNA will carry over, if you hope for the combination, then yeah, it's worth a punt. But ideally, you would have him test and then plug him in at LCR. He's not going to agree to that, is he? Even though maybe that's what you want to do. Straight into a factory team, first season of new regulations, straight into a factory team that should have really high ambitions for 2027. Like proper. This is not a, even though the results have not been good and still aren't that good, it's not a minnow we're talking about. So, this is not a team that needs to be in a position of taking big swings, right? If it was 2016, 2017 Aprilia or whatever, bringing somebody into work, go right ahead, go have a go at Toprak. That makes total sense. The upside could be enormous, and the downside, whatever. He makes your non-competitive bike non-competitive. Who cares? Nothing's changed. You get some potentially good publicity out of it, unless he really hates the experience.
He's always been this kind of ghost is too negative a word, but like you said, Simon, since Toprak had his first kind of really interesting superbike breakthroughs, MotoGP has had this sort of obsession with him that's never come to fruition. And there's often been points where it's like, okay, this still hasn't happened. Well, now it's never going to happen because he's going to be too old or too set in his ways in a superbike style to ever make the transition. And if he comes in for 2027, he would be 30 at that point.
Yes.
I like the idea of this massive test program. I've forgotten quite how much he could do with concessions. There's lots of things that make this the time that it could or should happen.
Well, it's even a non-concession thing, is it? Because he's not a race rider.
No, it's not, isn't it? Yeah.
Just knock yourself out, do whatever. Yeah.
If it were a concession thing, then Joan Mir would really need to stop crashing to secure his own future by getting rid of Honda's concessions and making sure that Toprak doesn't want to come and join the team. I mean, I'm old enough to remember whenever we had the exact same conversations in MotoGP about Jonathan Rea.
Yeah.
And it is exactly the same thing. Whenever you've got a champion who's so far above the rest of the field that he's competing against, and if anything, well, it kind of aligns nicely with the end of JR's career, right? Because you've got Toprak beating a known MotoGP quantity in Alvaro Bautista, like Jonathan was at the end of his career too. So you've got that marker. You've got that, everybody in MotoGP knows that level, and that's a useful way to gauge where the whole thing's at the minute. He will be old. He will come in and be old. And I think Val's completely right that it all depends on what the rest of the rider lineup looks like.
Yeah.
I think the number one thing, the most important first step in all of this is going to be signing on Johan Zarco for another 2 years. Because I think he's a bit of the rock of the Honda MotoGP program at the minute. And I know
LCR.
At LCR. And I know that despite the fact that he's already the oldest guy in the grid, he is really, really keen to stay. I have that firsthand. He wants to stay for 2 more years. So that would be a step towards making this more likely. And then I guess they either need Pedro Acosta to agree that he's coming, or they need Joan Mir to kind of start staying on the bike and delivering a couple of podiums and proving that there's something there behind his potential as well. Which then probably puts, I guess, Luca Marini in the position that he gets a 1-year contract extension for next year. But the fact that they've got those 2 riders out of sync kind of lets them play a little bit with that. And I know we're talking about the Acosta speculation, but there's also the question of, is that a 26 thing realistically, given what it's going to cost to get him out of a KTM contract, which I've been told this week in Texas is millions.
Of course,
it's going to cost millions to buy him out.
Yeah, of course.
And like if maybe Honda don't feel the need to do that with a new bike coming, maybe they're of the opinion that they can just try and buy him in at the end of 26 for the 27 season in the new bike anyway, which then gives everybody a bit more breathing space to make this happen.
We'll go back to Toprak in a sec, I imagine, but just on the millions point, honestly, hearing like the idea, if it is true that it does take millions in the contract, I think that actually then maybe they should do it. Because my assumption was just that it doesn't take millions, that it's literally impossible. That like the contract
the noises I heard at the weekend from people really well connected.
Okay.
Are that it is doable, but it's going to cost a lot of money.
Yeah, but then I would do it. But again, it depends on the specific amount of money, etc. It depends on.
This is the manufacturer that was paying a rider 25 million euros a season until recently.
Save the year.
Again, another thing I picked up recently is that they offer whenever the speculation about Mark first going to Ducati came up like 18 months ago, they offered him another 4-year deal at 25 million euros a season to keep him. So and also fair play to Marc Marquez, who it now turned down 150 million euros to go and win things again. Like,
you're operating in a non salary cost cap world. You can just
no, exactly. That's what I mean. Like, but the money is there. It's not going to be 25 million to buy Pedro out. I think when I say multiple millions, we're probably looking 5.
I mean, that's
I'd sign the check.
That
genuinely
should be higher
right now. Yeah,
really. That should be.
If it's 5,
it's why he's never going to go and ride for a satellite Ducati team.
Yeah,
because there's no satellite Ducati team with that money, and Ducati probably don't have that money. Full stop. Because this is the manufacturer that probably aren't paying any of their riders that much, because we know they do the low wages, big win bonuses thing.
I mean, they have that money. They have no
money,
incentive to spend it.
They've always been able to spend it. Yeah. And they don't need to spend it. They've got Marc Marquez and Pecco Bagnaia.
Honda does not need to pay a rider 25 million right now, because with where the bike is, the difference between a 1 million rider and a 25 million rider doesn't really change anything. But
how many 25 million riders are there in MotoGP right now?
But
spend it on anyway. There's probably 2.
Yeah.
Marquez and Quartararo.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of looking at, we said this after Termas, where we looked at Zarco's gap to the front and went, would it cost to be that many seconds faster than Zarco on the over race distance on the same bike? Probably.
At this point, no, probably not.
Yeah, really?
Not at this point in his career just yet, I would say. You'll get there. It's the question is, it's not, if you do it for 26, you're still not doing it for 26.
Yeah.
That's, for me, that would be clear. If you can make it somehow happen for 26, you make it firstly to avoid a bidding war in 27 when he's on the market. So that's one. That's already good. You get in front. That happens in other sports. Why get somebody in for something in return and not wait them to hit the market, because you want to ensure you can get them. And that's the one thing. And the other is, of course, all the bike prep, all the testing, bed him into the program before we reset everything. So he's just ready. He's ready right away for 27.
This is the other thing. With Pedro Acosta that you have to take into account here. If he's signed for Honda in 27, he's still got 12-15 years of winning in Grand Prix racing ahead of him.
Wow, yeah.
He's so young that buying him now is a long, and he is going to be one of those guys like Rossi that rides till he's 40.
Yeah.
Because he's like that, he's not going to be a Lorenzo that retires at 32 or a Casey that goes home at 27. This guy is here for the long haul because he just loves motorbike racing.
We spent quite a bit of time on the Austin podcast, basically slating Joan Mir. I don't think we can put it more elegantly than that, but Mir's
spent a long time.
Okay, Val. Mir's crashes are hard to justify at the moment, so we're not going to go into Mir territory again this time. But as a broader question, we've talked about Zarco doing a very good job. We've talked a lot about Luca Marini kind of feeling his way forward, being the dependable one. Mir has his quick moments, needs to stop crashing while trying to defend from faster bikes. Overall, though, when you look at the 4 riders Honda's got, do we know how good this Honda is with much confidence at the moment?
Well, you can say that about most bikes in MotoGP, I think.
Well, okay, yeah.
I think you can validly say that. But I don't think they're in a horrible situation in that regard. But I think what they know, what's even, to me, more important than how good the bike is, because the bike's hitting the shredder anyway at the end of 26. So for me, more important than how good the bike is do you have a guy who can win you a championship? Because that's what you have to want to do in 27. And for me, the answer is no. Right now, for me, no. So go get the guy. And if it really is 5 million, I mean, do it yesterday.
The good sign about the future, the good sign about 27 and beyond, is that we know that they're willing to invest serious amounts into making the new bike better than the current one. Because signing an Italian in the form of Romano Obisiano to come in and lead the project is such a big loss of face for Honda that they have to be serious about coming in to win things again, because they wouldn't be signing an Italian to run a Japanese team if they weren't like super, super focused on making this work. That for me kind of says everything we need to know about the new bike right now. And it'll come. It has to come. It's Honda. They don't not do this.
And for me, just to circle back to Toprak, I think the age is a factor, but ultimately, if he comes in winning right away, then it doesn't matter. I mean, that's true, but that's the emphasis. You need to come in. You need him to come in. If the bike can win right away, you basically need him to do it. Otherwise, what's the point in the whole experiment? And to do that, you have to estimate two things. One, you have to look at Toprak versus the current World Superbike field and try to really gauge the sort of the level relative to known MotoGP quantities that you know. And again, he's been lights out in World Superbikes. He's been fantastic in that championship. Obviously, its best rider recently by a considerable margin. But as far as MotoGP benchmarks go, nobody in their prime has left exactly to World Superbike. So you don't have a fantastic comparison. Again, the guys he's compared against at BMW, he's squashed like bugs, basically. They're a complete non-factor. He's, God, poor Scott Redding. But Scott Redding's been through like a very weird patch in his career. But obviously, like, he's been a guy who's gone publicly and saying, I can't do the stuff this guy does in terms of talent. And that's a Moto2 almost world champion, like close to world championship level, talking about that.
Yeah.
But he's also much older than he is now, than he was at that point. And he's also, Scott Redding, not the model of consistency. He's had an interesting career. So so that's the first question, right? How good are the World Superbike benchmarks, what you can tell? And the other question is, you have to estimate a percentage of loss of performance from the switch. You have to do it, and you have to, I don't know how you do it. I would be very bad at it. I would ideally test him, but you can't do it. That's the problem. You can't do it before you put a contract on the table. You can't do anything like that. You can't. Yamaha had the luxury, and it did test him, remember? And it wasn't particularly enamored with what it saw, to a point where it draw clearly a massive wedge between the two camps, and Toprak ended up leaving. I presume they maybe regret how that worked out now, but it still, the MotoGP data they had, whatever they saw, it didn't make them go for it. So Honda has to be confident that, either the 2027 change will swing it massively into Toprak's wheelhouse, or that they know better than Yamaha, that they're smarter than Yamaha. They can, what Yamaha did not see, they see. Maybe they do, why not? Again, Toprak in World Superbikes box office, fantastic rider. So
two little pieces of BMW gossip just to throw in there. One of the reasons that there's been significant change in management, from what I've heard, has been that they contracted 2 riders for this season that are now riding for other manufacturers, and paid them, or promised to pay them, quite a bit of money. And
so that's Redding and Garrett Gerloff.
Garrett Gerloff. Apparently there's ongoing legal action that's going to cost them even more money. And that's part of the reason why there was a change in management. The other thing is that there is, once again, a little bit of rumblings in the GP paddock about the BMW MotoGP project still being a thing that's coming for 27, like we expected it to be. I don't think that sways Toprak's decision one way or another, especially if he has kind of fallen out with them, and the rumors that I've heard about him falling out with them are true. I think that he wants, if he's coming into MotoGP at 30, he doesn't want to do it with a team that's brand new.
I agree.
He wants to come in and start being able to win things, or feel like he's able to win things as soon as he's ready, as soon as the bike's, rather than as soon as the bike's ready. So I think the BMW to MotoGP decision doesn't factor into this at all.
Yeah, I agree. And he knows his age too. Like, it's not just us talking about it. He'll be well aware that, I don't want to spend 2 years betting in, 2 years proving myself in a satellite team, 2 years learning the ropes with a new manufacturer that's just figuring it out, especially when maybe you look at MotoGP right now, and the whole reason we're having the Acosta conversation is that so long after its arrival, KTM has not taken that final step. So are you going to back BMW to do it immediately? Maybe, but it's not exactly, nothing is a safe bet except for the red bikes, but this is a particularly unsafe bet. And no shade on BMW, just how it is.
Wow, this house is cute. But can I really get in the game in this economy? I do have savings, and I am responsible-ish. I should bury it. I'm being wild. But what if I'm not being wild, though? Could I actually score a...
Kick off your home buying journey with Zillow's new BuyAbility tool. It makes it easy to find out what you can afford, so you can get off the bench and onto the playing field with confidence. Check your BuyAbility, only on Zillow.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile, with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Lowe's knows member-only doorbuster deals make SpringFest savings even better. Right now, rewards members can get 3 19.3-ounce Bonnie Plants vegetables and herbs for just $10. Plus, save $50 on a Charbroil Performance Series 4-burner grill, now $149. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 4/7, excludes Alaska and Hawaii. Selection varies by location, subject to change. While supplies last. Program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms.
Before the start of the season, we invited the Race Members Club on Patreon to send in questions for Jack Miller at the start of his time as a Pramac Yamaha rider. And then Jack and Pramac got even busier in the Yamaha factory program than expected. So it took a while to manage to pin him down and do it. Before the Austin round, Simon did. It's such a fun set of questions covering Jack's life, career, the Australian scene. There's so much. Cal Crutchlow pops up more than once in the topics. It's a brilliant interview. It's available in full on the Race Members Club this week. As a little teaser, here are a couple of our favourite bits from it for you all to enjoy in the main feed here.
Obviously, you're super competitive. We know how competitive every one of you guys are. The bike isn't maybe where you wanted to be right now. Is there still reward coming from being the best Yamaha, from moving it forward, from what you guys are doing with the bike?
At the end of the day, I'm not the type of guy that's going to clap and celebrate for a top 10 or something like that. You take the wins with what they are, you take the little wins that you can get when you're trying to get them, but I'm not going to be clapping and waving and hugging everybody for a 10th position, no. At the end of the day, you want to try and be here fighting with the best guys in the world, and to be honest, for me, a good result is a podium. I love being on the podium. That's one thing you've seen throughout the years is how much I love getting on the podium. And, that for me is a good result. That's worthy of a celebration. And behind that, it's all right, we need to do more. What can we do better? What can we do to improve? And that's what I want to be back in that position where we can be challenging on the regular for those podium positions.
Are there podiums in the bike this year? Because it's looked at times like there are.
I think so. There's definitely tracks that are going to suit more than others, but also there's updates coming in as well as concessions and stuff like that. I think there's definitely a podium in this thing before the year's out, definitely.
What's it been like coming back into the team this year? Because obviously team you know well, but they've had a roller coaster since you were last there.
Yeah, a good roller coaster, more ups and downs with it, but no, I mean, they've had a fantastic 4 years, but it's been like coming home, honestly. It's been a bit of a homecoming, and just working with the boys and remembering what times were like back then and how those guys are, how I am. But then also changing crew chief as well, working with Pippi for 5 years, or even longer actually. But, I did 5 years at Ducati, and then another 2 at KTM, so 7 years we worked together. It was a very long time working together, and we had a great relationship. But working with Giacomo this year, who's kind of somebody different, has been refreshing and something different, a different approach to racing, a different approach to setting up the bike, which has been cool to learn and go through that whole new thing together with each other. It's been really, really, really cool.
Psycho race around the Isle of Man, who wins your Crutchlow?
It's not even a question. And I'm not saying that as an hard win. We all know that. No one can ride a headwind like Cal, and no one can ride a bicycle like Cal, and no one can deal with the Isle of Man conditions like he can. Cal will win that for sure.
There's another question about Cal, and it's a day I remember really well. Jim Stevenson says, Silverstone 2015.
Yeah, I remember that one.
How did that change the relationship with him? Because I don't think it really did.
It didn't really. Obviously, you just lick your wounds and apologise. I mean, at the end of the day, we were mates, and that was unfortunate what happened on track. I didn't mean for that to happen. But that was one of those moments where you sort of bury your head in the sand and try and hide for a bit. It was rough walking along the fence. I'll never. That's one thing that sort of stands out in my brain. It's burnt into my brain. I was walking along the fence there because it was quite a way around to where I could catch a scooter, and all the bottles and shit getting thrown at the fence was pretty gnarly.
I remember sitting in his media debrief in LCR Hospitality, and he came in and just everyone went silent because nobody knew what sort of mood he was going to be in, and he just sat down and looked around and went, "Cheer up, there's no one died."
If you enjoyed that, there's plenty more of it on Patreon in the Race Members Club, where you can get the full Q&A. Sign up now, get your 7-day free trial, check out our content there. And if you stick with us, then you'll be in with a chance to ask your questions to other MotoGP riders and team bosses next time Simon pins someone down for one of these chats.
I think you're on mute.
Workday starting to sound the same?
I think you're on mute.
Find something that sounds better for your career on LinkedIn. With LinkedIn Job Collections, you can browse curated collections by relevant industries and benefits, like flex PTO or hybrid workplaces, so you can find the right job for you. Get started at linkedin.com/jobs. Finding where you fit. LinkedIn knows how.
Uh-oh. The last cookie.
You can get a new box of cookies in as fast as an hour with Walmart Express Delivery.
Are you my guilty self-conscience?
No, I'm the voice offering you promo code EXPRESS for free delivery on your first order.
Hey, who ate my cookies?
You mean these cookies?
Order now. Welcome to your Walmart. Promotion valid for first express delivery order. $50 minimum subject to availability. Restrictions apply.
Hey, this is Bill Simmons from the Bill Simmons Podcast, here to tell you that Michelob Ultra is giving you the chance to win tickets to the NBA Finals. That's right, the 2025 NBA Finals. Just head to MichelobUltra.com/NBA Finals. Michelob Ultra courtside NBA Finals sweepstakes. No purchase necessary. Open to U.S. residents, excluding Maryland residents. 21 up. Begins at 9 a.m. EST on February 16, 2025. Ends on May 5th, 2025. See official rules at MichelobUltra.com/rules for price and details. Message and data rates may apply. Void where prohibited.
As we said at the outset, this should be the week when Jorge Martin comes back to MotoGP racing action after what a horrible start to the year. That crash right at the start of testing, which did one injury, and then the crash during his rehabilitation that did significantly more injuries. Martin did attend the Qatar round to literally pretty much spend time with Aprilia because he'd barely met them yet, given how his winter had been. He had quite a lot to say about how severe his injury was and his prognosis right now.
So I think every injury is different. For sure, sometimes it's similar, but it's different. And yeah, the first injury was a strange crash. I broke 3 bones, but after 7-8 days, I was again on the bike, so it was pretty fast. So on the mental side was nothing. But then I crashed again just on Monday before coming to Thailand, and that one was really, really heavy. I was scared because I felt my hand as never before was really, really bad, in a bad situation. And yeah, even after the surgery, you start to move a little bit, or you start to feel, but I didn't. For 2 weeks I couldn't move the left hand. So yeah, the mental side was difficult. I was scared to maybe don't ride or something again, because I was really in a bad situation. But afterwards, after 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I started to see the light, and I know in the long term it won't be a problem. But now, for sure, I don't feel at my best. So let's see when I ride how it is.
Hey Jorge, I guess you've been learning all about the scaphoid. I mean, how does your wrist feel? Is it difficult for mobility or for strength?
So I still struggle a lot to not to move. I can move, but I cannot put any weight still. So And it was not only the scaphoid, but the head of the radius, no? That was broken in three pieces. So I don't know if it was worse, the scaphoid or the radius. But both are really important to put weight on the hand. So I think it was one of the worst injuries for a rider to have those two bones. And yeah, it's healing well, and it's healing fast, and normally it can be a problem. So I'm happy about how I'm recovering.
He was quite descriptive about just how bad the damage was from the training crash, Val, and how much he feared actually for his career at one point after that, and where things are now. So it's fair to say, if he is cleared to race, and we expect him to at least try to ride the back in practice at Losail, this won't be full-on Martin, will it? Physically or bike knowledge, he's kind of starting his winter from scratch now with an injury recovery on top.
Yeah, no, it's not a weekend to go get results. I am fairly confident we're going to see him on track. That's just standard MotoGP practice. If he's had the medical checkup, if he's bought the tickets basically, and I think we believe that he has, and 99 times out of 100, that means there's an understanding that you can ride an FP1, you can see how that's going to go. Like the one exception recently was Sergio Garcia for some insane reason in Moto2, but generally speaking,
he went all the way to Argentina.
Yeah. Brutal. But yeah, not to say that being in Argentina is brutal. I'd like to make it clear. No, it's just long travel.
The journey.
Yeah.
The journey.
Going there from Spain, expecting to race, when you just done a load of recovery rehab and then not racing it. That's brutal.
Yeah, good rescue, Val. But just betting himself in. It's like you just don't know what kind of lap time penalty his bone situation basically and his loss of muscle strength, etc. will have until he's on the bike. I think Qatar is going to be okay for that kind of thing, I would imagine, but you never know. And he's a seasoned enough rider. He did get again some time on an Aprilia in Valencia of last year, an Aprilia that was already Barcelona last year, and an Aprilia that was already a prototype of this year, but obviously not quite the same bike. He's at a massive still knowledge build-up disadvantage. He's going to be in a massive fitness disadvantage of all sorts. If it's no pressure on him, if anything, the pressure is basically not on all the other riders in the camp, but on two of the three other riders on the camp, because you can't have him running ahead of him at all. It's unthinkable. If he returns it, he's immediately faster than you. That what are we even doing here? But for Martin, it's just season's gone in many ways. Just go out there, regain your fitness, prepare for, to go for individual results this season and start building things for 26, as ridiculous as that sounds in April of 25.
Yeah, it's how it has to be now, isn't it? The 25 is a write-off for him after the way his winter has gone.
Yeah, I mean, I still maintain that might not be a terrible thing. That kind of takes the pressure off him preparing for next season now. It's like almost like having concessions, isn't it? He's got the rest of the season to kind of test in races and build into an actual program for next year with no pressure whatsoever to deliver results. I think he kind of knows that too, because whenever we sat down with him in Coda, he was like, he was much more relaxed than I've seen Jorge Martin for literally years. It's not like him to be cracking jokes about, his opening line was like, "Oh, I actually missed you guys," looking at the media, which is not the sort of joke he normally cracks. But I think he's in a fairly low pressure position at the minute. He understands that. And while he'd obviously rather have had a full preseason and be racing and competitive, he just needs to keep the pressure off now over the next 6 months and just prepare for next year.
You need to assert yourself within the team. You need to show them that you're worth what they paid for you. The injuries. Again, injuries happen to everybody, but you did do them through what you did,
especially the second one.
Yeah,
that was being a.
Well, I wasn't going to say that, but
we need the beep machine every episode at the moment. Come on. I know the last time was me.
Does that need beep?
Yes, that does need beep.
Again, George Carlin, I believe, has considers that a no word. Yeah.
Where were we?
Aprilia?
Yes, you talk about him needing to assert himself when he comes back. I was going to say, and it might be a little bit uncharitable, that shouldn't be hard once it's up to speed, because Aprilia without Jorge Martin, with the exception of the amazing promise of Ayagura, Aprilia without Jorge Martin does not look good at the moment. Fourth in the Constructors' Championship, Manufacturers' Championship, Works Team 8th in the Teams' Championship. I know that's like, those aren't the most realistic championships in a way, but the results just aren't there. Marco Bezzecchi, who looked so good for much of testing, cannot execute it across a race weekend at the moment. This team needs its champion rider to turn up and be fit now.
It's very interesting. The Bezzecchi thing, it is very, very interesting, because it suggests that he was being flattered by the build-up of, probably not grip, I guess, but I don't know, the build-up of data certainly over the testing and etc. Because he did get, both tests got gradually better and better and better with every day, and the race pace looked really good. But even the single lap stuff, which is what he's struggling with right now the most, I'd say looked pretty good, but that's after a lot of running at a single track. And the fact that that's not really happening right now, fresh into weekends, it surprises me a little bit, because, when we think Marco Bezzecchi, we think adaptable. Not in the sense that...
we did till last year.
Well, yeah. Not in the sense of like bike adaptable, but in the sense like conditions adaptable, that he doesn't need...
Yeah, when you said it can't be a build-up of grip, I was like, no, it definitely can't be a build-up of grip, because normally he wants grip taken away so he can like show his amazing bike control and beat everyone that way. So...
It's interesting. Again, at least we've not heard about the rear pushing the front. I still don't have a great... like, maybe I just don't remember. I don't think he's really gone into why he's not finding the single lap pace that he needs. But
he hasn't, from the media sessions that I've heard, I don't think he's even... Well, it's not this sounded not bothered, but he sounded at times almost kind of... I don't know what your take from staring into his eyes, Simon, has been, but like he sounded kind of resigned and just kind of, that's how it is, that my qualifying's not very good. And it's like, no, hang on. You need to be turning your career around. You had a really bad last season that raised all kinds of question marks about how amazing we all thought you were. This was supposed to be when that changed, and it's really not started well. And you had a golden opportunity to make this team your own after strong testing with Jorge Martin not there.
And we know the bike's good at qualifying. It's not like a Suzuki situation where he's jumped on a bike that just isn't very good at it.
Yeah.
Because Elation Maverick repeatedly last year showed that the bike has one lap pace. Part of it is that it's hard to read Bezzecchi because he's got that kind of stoner vibe in his debriefs that makes it quite difficult to sometimes really get much of a feel for what's motivating him. And I don't want to read into that as him not being motivated, because obviously I think everyone who's in MotoGP has to be motivated. So I don't want to read too much into kind of what he tells us as that. And it goes back to what we said a few weeks ago in the podcast. Everyone lies all the time in these debriefs. So there is an element of that too, but there's just something missing, isn't there? There's something that's not right. Agura's also not qualifying great.
No, but
and kind of working miracles in races relative to Bezzecchi. But I think it's hard to gauge whether or not the bike has got slower over one lap, or whether that's just a rookie who's bad at qualifying, because all rookies are bad at qualifying fundamentally. That's the hardest thing to learn in MotoGP.
And for me, it's clearly that, by the way. Like if I were to place a wager right now, I'd say clearly that's the thing.
The good thing is that hopefully next weekend
we'll find out.
Aprilia are getting back Mr. Qualifying.
Yeah.
That Mr. Pole Position's coming to the party. And even if he isn't fit, and even if it's going to take a bit of time to get there, I think the one lap pace for Jorge Martin is going to come before the race pace, because that's exactly what you expect from him to just, this is the guy who, despite rookies being not very good at qualified pole position in his second race.
And, I should say I think there will be people right now, and just completely reasonably so, going, guys, you're really sticking it into Bezzecchi. Wasn't he 6th at the finish last time out at Kota? Which, like, that headline, that's a good result. But again, it was a massively attritional race. He had to undo damage to the weekend done over a single lap. And it's Kota. Okay, I didn't expect him to go Maverick Vinales mode from last year. I don't think that's, like, accessible to mere mortals, whatever that was. But, like, it's not anything to scream and shout about, is it?
No.
And it's less than we expected, I would say.
The way Gerson Ferreira in the Members Club described it as Agura and Bez salvaging a lost weekend with how things turned out eventually at Coach. And I thought that was a really good description, because it's, yes, okay, when you looked at what they eventually got round to in the results, yeah, actually, decent salvage. This was the bike that dominated last year. This is a team that was intending, when you sign Martin and Bezzecchi with what they'd achieved over the preceding seasons, intending to make an even bigger breakthrough and be a front runner from the outset this year. And at the moment, it's not the team you look to be Ducati's closest rival. So it's a massive step back. We should talk about Raul Fernandez while we're talking about disappointing Aprilia things. We did talk about Raul Fernandez the other week when the Members Club basically sent us a barrage of any of you still got any faith in Raul Fernandez questions, and even you guys were like, it's waning. Raul was very open at COTA, Simon, about his situation in a way I don't think I'd heard from him before.
No, there's a bit of newfound maturity there, where he kind of, for the first time, put his hands up and said, I'm useless right now, and it's all in my head because the bike's good enough and I have the talent. And it's not the easiest thing in the world to do. He has hinted in the past about working with a sports psychologist and about needing to work with a sports psychologist. I think the end of last season, I did an interview with him for the podcast, and he kind of talked in it a bit about how he'd seen his brother use one in Moto3 and the benefits from it. But kind of, opened up a bit in COTA about how the problem lies within, essentially. I still think that there's an element, like we've talked about previously, I think about the team not quite being there for him the way that he needs, because they're all over the place with bike setup. But I mean, the first step to finding a solution to the problem is identifying the problem, right? So if he's figured out what the problem is, and to be honest, it's probably not a massive surprise that his confidence has taken a bit of a dent over the last few years, after everything that the kid's been through and the pressure put on him by both his own, best Moto2 rookie season of all time, and the kind of the hype built around him coming into MotoGP, the pressure, I guess, that Massimo Rivola has put on him to an extent about being the future of Aprilia, the guy that's going to carry on the legacy as their chief factory riders leaves. He's under a lot of pressure for someone who's not very old still. And I think, I don't want to sound unkind in saying this, but he's maybe not been the most mature MotoGP rider up until this point. So if he's had a bit of an awakening, a bit of a realization that that's where he needs to work and that's where he needs to fix things, there's time to turn it all around. But he's going to have to show us, of course, that there is time. He's so fortunate he's got that 2-year deal, because that kind of gives him the time to fix it now.
Let's actually have a listen to some of that revealing Raul Fernandez chat from over the COTA weekend. This was how he opened his media session after the sprint.
Not the day you expected? Or was it?
To be honest, it's a strange situation because I feel good with the bike. I feel we are strong. But yes, I have to tell to myself that I need calm in these critical moments. I am not managing well the qualifying, and I was not managing well the sprint. So it is what I need to do. Simple, easy. The bike is ready. The team is ready. How I feel ready. I feel physically in a really good moment. I feel we are working well. So yes, the thing is, I need to say to myself that I need calm. That's it. Because on the qualifying, since I arrived to the World Championship, I never made the mistake that I made today. It is something that I cannot explain, and I cannot be how I can explain. I cannot be happy with myself. It's impossible. And what happened? You make a mistake in the qualifying. You get a bad place in the grid. We made a bad start. Blah 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 blah. It was a chaos. But after, when I have the car and I was alone and I can be focused and I can drive with the car, I be fast. I was fast. I was fast. This is what I need to find. Easy. I cannot tell nothing bad about the team, about the bike. Yes, they don't give me the pressure, they give me the car, but what I need in that moment is just to applicate this on the bike.
I found it very, like, generally when Raul speaks, I always find it very relatable and endearing because he is just a very honest guy about it. He speaks how he feels, and in his assessments of what he's lacking, like I believe that's what he sees, and I do believe that obviously trying to go to the root of that mental side of the game, which is always important, but in this particular case, when you can't string a weekend together, that's a good place to look. My concern is I don't think that's a cure-all. So that's going to fix a lot if he makes himself more resilient to things that happen in weekends. Of course, that can only be for the better. My concern is he's not been very fast.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you fix that necessarily. And like I've not the problem with this here is I've not seen it in flashes. That's like usually Raul Fernandez, you'd be like, okay, but the flashes, the etc., that practice session, etc. Right now I'm sitting there, I'm like, I've not really, there's nothing. I've not seen genuinely particularly anything. It's not to say that he's totally stinking up the joint. Again, this is a super difficult championship. I will never tire of saying this. It's super, super hard. It's a razor thin margins, etc. But when there's an execution problem, usually you at least there's parts of the weekend you point to and you go, okay, well that was it. This is what you need the whole weekend. Maybe I'm wrong. I've barely seen those this year.
No, and we did get those moments, even at its worst points until now. And the Ayagura thing makes it so much harder because you can look at the changing of teams, the treatment at KTM, the arm problems he had, the setup to and froing now, and the kind of the weight of all the kind of confidence sapping things that have happened. And then you go, yeah, but this kid hasn't actually raced in MotoGP till now, and he's in the same team, and look at him go.
Here's the problem.
It's really tough.
Here's the problem for Raul with Ayagura. Ayagura is at peak Raul Fernandez level all the time.
Yeah.
Like all the time. He's just, excluding that one session that he was 9 seconds off the pace at Kota for some bewildering, insane reasons. But like in terms of when it counts, it's just maybe, look, at their peak right now, maybe they're at the same place, but just is 3 rounds into his career and he's already like immediately there. Like, this is what I'm going to get you. This. See ya. That's an issue for Raul Fernandez.
To try to end this on a positive note, there is still a potential situation where Raul Fernandez does access what made that Moto2 season so special, where Marco Bezzecchi does access what made 2023 and lots of times before that so special for him. Jorge Martin is back, and they've got Ayagura, and actually Aprilia's in great shape. But right now, whoa, that is not the case.
Aprilia's in good shape. They've built a good bike.
Yes,
for me, that's the hardest part, honestly.
Someone needs to get it on a podium,
though,
and then that's the issue. But yes, the Aprilia, from everything we see in testing and what Agura has managed to do with it on its best days, the Aprilia is a good bike, and I'm really looking forward to seeing that being demonstrated, whether it's by Martin or any of these 4. We'll see how that goes at I was going to say Qatar. I meant Qatar. Let's go see how it goes in Qatar this weekend when Martin is hopefully back on track. We haven't talked about Pecco Bagnaia or Marc Marquez at all in this episode. I suspect we might in the one at the Qatar Grand Prix. We'll be back in your ears then.
The Athletic.